Welcome back, humor consumers, to the Life Happens, Laugh Anyway podcast. I'm comedian Tracy DeGraff.
And I'm Cathrine.
It's every time. It's funny.
Well, I'm not a comedian or, author,
Right.
speaker, so I just say bestie.
Yes. Thank you for being here, Cathrine.
I could say co-host.
Yes. Co-host. Well,
whatever.
Okay, so let's try that for the next recording, the next episode. Mm-hmm. So tune in to the next one, folks, where Cathrine is going to reveal that she's a co-host.
In case you didn't pick up on that.
Welcome to our little pod lab. We're in a new space. We're excited because we have expanded.
Yeah, it's really nice. It's comfortable.
It is.
Uh-huh.
It is. So a little backstory. Mm-hmm. I'm the mother of 5 sons. They're all grown now. And the 5th one, number 5, the baby, he moved out. And that's what now is the pod lab, his room.
Yeah. And also, we have a much bigger window now.
Oh, yes. We had a little prison window. Mm-hmm. We were previously recording from my master bedroom closet, and I did ask my husband to put a window in there. It's a long story, but it was a conversion renovation where he converted the 1-car garage into a master suite. So it it was all garage, and now it's a master bedroom, closet, bathroom, hallway, suite.
Yeah.
It's suite in 2 ways. It's a suite that is sweet.
Yes. And we're out of it now.
Yeah.
Out of the closet.
Yes, we are. And I'm really liking this space.
Yeah.
It's way bigger and it doesn't feel quite so claustrophobic. Mm-hmm. Even though the other space, because of the little window, but the joke is it's so little that it literally is like a prison window. Like I couldn't get my head or my other end out of it.
Yeah.
I could probably wave my hands out.
Well, we couldn't see out of it except for the tree in the distance.
Right.
Like the top of it.
Right. Mm-hmm. So I don't know it was like a vent, a mail slot, just in case we need a mail slot. So here we are in our new pod lab, which is a pretty decent sized bedroom, former bedroom, now pod lab. Mm-hmm. And we're bringing you this episode, and it is on the topic of pets.
Yeah.
So that's what we do. If you're new to our podcast, every week we bring a different topic and we discuss it. Mm-hmm. And we are curators of the internet looking for information to bring some value to you about that topic. And then at the end of the broadcast, we will point you to Jesus in his word in some way. Yeah. So let's dive into pets, Cathrine.
Okay, let's go. Well, who are we sponsored by?
Oh, I forgot about our sponsors. Yes, we have 2 sponsors right now. Mm-hmm. Muffin.
And Pooh.
Our husbands.
Right.
Ron and Kenny.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. They're not listening.
Well, sometimes they do.
Yeah. But I think they hear our voice enough in their head. They're probably like, I need a break.
Yeah.
So we're grateful to them that they are supportive of us doing this podcast. And soon we are going to launch an opportunity for you listeners to become sponsors. That's on our goal sheet.
It is. So look forward to that.
Yeah. So that's going to be coming up. And so let's dive in here, Cathrine, on our thoughts and feelings and experiences. What say you about pets?
Well, I have one.
I know you do. Mm-hmm. Macy. Do you know what kind of dog Macy is? Do you know like the...
Well, we were told that she was a mix between a collie and a lab. But we really think that she's...
She doesn't look like a collie to me.
No, other than under her neck, she has that thick hair.
Yeah,
like
she looks like a greyhound.
Well, that's exactly what I was getting at, yes.
She's got these long legs.
That she's a greyhound.
Yeah.
Either that or a gazelle, because that's what she looks like when she runs.
Yes, and she does run.
Oh, yeah.
Fast, and she jumps.
Yes.
Like Santa's flying reindeer.
She leaps.
Yes, she does. Mm-hmm. Like Rudolph. Mm-hmm. Put a nose and some antlers on her, dress her up. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, tell me about your, like, what, so what's your vibe with pets?
Dare I say?
Yes.
Okay, here it goes. I'm not really one for pets.
Okay.
I love people.
Yes.
And I joked at the beginning of this that Kenny is my pet. But what I mean by that is that he's my companion. He's my buddy. And that's enough for me. Mm-hmm. So, and, some people say, oh, but if you grew up with one, well, guess what? I did. I grew up.
You grew up your whole life with a pet?
My whole life.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Ginger. Yeah.
Did you get along, you and Ginger?
Well, I don't remember ever really
bonding.
No.
Yeah.
Not really. She was a sweet dog.
Okay.
My sister and my brother did, definitely. They pet her and things like that. But I just feel like I must have dismissed her a lot.
Okay.
But anyway, and we also had a cat, Bogey, and
Okay.
the cat was cute. But but she would run away when you tried to pet her.
Cats have their own ideas about life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then in my married life, we didn't have much luck with pets. So our son, when he was real young, he had a reptile thing that he had a fish tank that spilled all over, an aquarium.
Right.
That he and my nephew got into when they were real young, and the aquarium was on top of their dresser, and our house was very new at the time, and the aquarium, whatever they did, though, all of the water in it just went all over, and
that's a mess.
That's a big mess.
Yeah.
And we had 2 cats, and they ended up going to the bathroom in the house rather than their litter box. So that was a problem.
That is a problem because most people say that cats generally are easier in that regard than dogs because you don't have to let them out. Mm-hmm. So if they're still and not doing what cats are supposed to do.
Mm-hmm. And we couldn't figure out what the issue was. We think that one of the cats was jealous or mad at the other one. And so we tried to do 2 separate litter boxes, but that didn't seem to work either.
Yeah.
And so they just get...
it would have been much easier if God would have allowed animals to just talk. Because they seem to use their feces and urine to communicate. Like they mark their territory, like this is mine and I want this. And
well, I do believe they have their way of talking to each other. Like whales. I think it's whales. Like they communicate.
Yeah, but they don't hold a conversation. They're basically just saying, I want food, I want sex, I want food, I want sex.
And that's enough for them.
Okay.
I think they do communicate. The one cat was ticked at the other, and the other was like, fine, I don't care. Right. They say it in their animal way.
Well, that's what I mean.
Meow, 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 meow.
It would be way easier if they could just talk.
Okay.
But, okay, so you've had your share of
yes, then we had a
living
little puppy, Sandy, and that was disastrous. She was not trainable. We even found that out when she was taken to a trainer.
Oh.
And they said this dog is not trainable. So that was that. Then we got another dog, and he had distemper, which we didn't know, of course, when we first got him. And now we have Macy, and she's healthy. Our daughter Ellis loves Macy.
Yeah.
I think Emily does too. Ellie really looks after her, makes sure.
It's really Ellie's dog, really.
Yeah, and Kenny loves her too.
Yeah. So. Yeah, but Ellie is the one who makes sure that she's got her pills and vet stuff and all that stuff. So that's good. Mm-hmm. Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes, believe it or not, like I will have a soft spot here and there for Macy, especially when no one's home. I'm like, Macy,
it's
just
me and
you and me.
So in a nutshell, you're not necessarily the animal lover in the house, but you live with animal lovers. And so therefore, kind of by default, you...
Because I love the people I live with.
Right. And they wanted a pet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
And I'm off the hook,
As far as what?
Well, as far as got what they wanted, and they don't have to get like extra from me.
Okay. Where are we going with this conversation, Kat? Is this a different topic now? Did we just make a U-turn? What happened?
Let's see. Okay, you're right. That sounds
Odd.
Sounds suggestive.
Okay.
I guess. But the dog can make them happy.
Okay.
I don't have to always make them happy.
I
don't know how this is going.
Well, I give you kudos. Kudos to you, my friend, because, there are a lot of people who wouldn't tolerate something that they're not necessarily into for the sake of the loved ones that they live with. There are a lot of people who just would be like, no, I'm not tolerating this because this is not what I'm going to tolerate. You fill in the blank with what it is.
Yeah.
Right?
I suppose.
So
but there
good for
was
you.
a long period of time where I did say no pets. Although, it didn't last long. As I just said, we had...
You just went over the
I
whole
just
routine,
went over all the
and
pets.
it's a whole bunch of pets.
That's true. That's true. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I will share our pet story.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember animal stories from
Yes, Larry
high
Lou
school?
Jack.
Yeah, and little
Tommy. Oh,
Uncle
for
Lair
sure.
and little
Yes,
Tommy.
I sure
Weird
do.
stories about animals.
Yeah.
Well, our animal stories, we've had a couple of cats. One of them we had to rehome somewhere else because we had like an allergy issue in the home, and that was many, many years ago. And the other one, and in fact, at that time, the first cat, we only had 3 kids at the time. Mm-hmm. And it was an obligatory pet.
Sure.
They wanted a pet. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's get a cat because it'll go in the litter thing and all that. Mm-hmm. Well, turns out there was allergies. So we had to rehome.
Darn for you.
I know. I'm like, well, we tried.
Yeah.
Well, then we got another cat that we adopted some way, somehow. And we lived out in the country next door to you guys at the time. And that was O'Grady. You remember?
Yes.
O'Grady was
yes.
a great cat. Like
Because she was outside.
Yes. And so it worked. It worked well because it wasn't an issue with the allergies. Mm-hmm. And O'Grady was like in her haven. Mm. She was catching all the mice and putting them at the doorstep. Like, look what I did. Mm-hmm. And she was a great cat. Mm. And then the neighbor across the street felt sorry for O'Grady because she was outside.
That's exactly. Mm-hmm.
But she was head to toe fur, I'm saying, and we would bring her into the garage at night.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
When we could find her.
Yeah.
Him. It was a him.
Oh,
it was
right.
him. It was him. Find him. Mm-hmm. Well, the neighbor took him and had him in her house, which...
And let me ask you, he still had his claws, right? He wasn't declawed?
100%,
Yeah,
yes.
so being outside was...
Because he had to be able to do his thing. Otherwise, I don't think you can kill a mouse with I think they use that, like, it's like their fork and knife, like...
Well, it's their defense for sure from the other critters. Right.
And they got to be able to climb trees.
Yeah.
All right. So O'Grady, the neighbor took O'Grady because she felt sorry for him. And I really didn't care if she had him or not. Because I was like, well, one less thing for me to do. I've got 5 boys I'm taking care of. But I could see O'Grady walking in her house on her furniture.
Because when you say took, you mean without permission.
Yeah.
Right.
Like theft.
Yes.
Like she was literally
like
a cat
one day,
burglar.
You're like, where's the cat? And then you look over across the street and you're
in her
like,
house.
hey, wait a second.
Except I wasn't like that. I wasn't like, hey, wait a second. I was more like, oh, good. I don't have to worry about feeding him or whatever.
A little bit. You were a little surprised. Like, wow.
Yes. I was surprised at the move that the neighbor made because I thought that's a pretty bold move.
Yes.
And it was my kid who was upset about it because my kid really liked it. Was his pet.
Yeah.
So
was it Nate?
Yeah. So I had to make the call to the neighbor. And I'm like, look, I see my cat. It's at your house. You got to send him back. It's the kid, the kid is sad. So we had to have that discussion. And then it turned out that O'Grady died anyway. Climbed up a tree and never came down. And I don't know if he was afraid of something or what. I don't know what happened.
She didn't give the cat back either, did she?
Not really. She was she was kind of like, well, you don't take care of it. And, which maybe, and I mean, maybe that was the case I don't know if the cat was happy or not. He seemed like he was happy.
he always went home.
He did.
To your house.
Well, until she was luring him away with food and stuff, And then, so there's the loyalty of the cat. Right. Yeah, it doesn't have thumbs, can't get out. So he's stuck in there. Anyway, it was a great cat for cat purposes. Doing the mouse thing.
Yeah.
Fantastic for that.
Well, and for the love that it gave your son.
Yeah. So there's that. So judge as you will, as we do on that. But that was that. And we did have a dog for a period of time, but we got the wrong type of dog.
Yeah. Reuben?
Yes, Reuben. We got an American Bulldog, and it was cute as a little puppy. But and we had the 5 boys, and Reuben would listen to only my husband and my first 2 sons, who were teenagers at the time. And
with deeper voices.
Deeper voices, and they were grown and big, And Reuben would not give me the time of day or listen to me at all, nor to my 3 younger boys. So there was the power struggle with Reuben. The pack thing.
He got aggressive.
Yes, and he got aggressive with my youngest. And so a good friend of mine who's a vet tech, she said, the mistake you made here was you got the wrong breed. You really needed a different breed. So we rehomed Reuben to a single guy who was muscular and like he could wrestle with them and play with them and do all that stuff. And it worked out great, we think.
And you got Reuben because of your love for your child, right?
Yes.
Because he wanted a pet so badly.
Yes, but wrong decision. It was a total emotional decision.
That's how it was when we got Macy.
Don't ever do that, listeners. Do not ever, because a pet, first thing we're going to get into this in a minute, but just table that thought. Do not make a quick emotional decision with a pet. You have got to really think things through, and we're going to get into that in 1 second. I want to talk about the guinea pig and the betta fish. Those are 2 other pets that we had. Guinea pigs, it's cute, right? And adorable and blah, blah, blah. But they don't like to be all by themselves.
Yeah, I didn't know that until...
I didn't either.
Right.
They're more social, so they like to be with other guinea pigs. So I think our guinea pig was depressed. It was just not going well with the guinea pig, and the kids were not into it. So I had to rehome the guinea pig, and I found this woman who did like a guinea pig rescue. And she put them in their little like groups, like they're very social. So they're like little small groups of guinea pigs, and they were happy as could be. So that didn't work.
They talk to each other,
I guess. And then we did a betta fish. And the betta fish, they're so colorful and adorable, right? And we had it in a bowl. And I put the water in the bowl to the top of the bowl. You can't do that.
No, right?
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that you did that. You left that part out when you're telling me about.
It didn't say fill to here. And I put the water up too high, and the fish jumped out of the bowl. And I didn't know. It was the middle of the night. I get up the next day, and there's a black fish on the counter. Betta fish committed suicide. So that was the end of our pet's story. And I have a grand pet now.
Yeah, you do.
I have a grand dog. But as you pointed out, it lives 1,000 miles away. But when she visited a couple months ago, she came and stayed at my house. And it was fine.
Very nice.
Yeah, it was all good.
Good.
Yeah. So
that's our story.
And I'm not really a dog person either. I mean, I'm definitely not. I'm definitely not a dog person in terms of like I don't long to have a dog. But I'm happy for other people that have dogs.
The same here.
Very happy.
Yes.
And when I had cancer a few years ago, so I'm a breast cancer survivor. I'm now 5 years cancer free.
Yes.
So that's
Very
praise
good.
the Lord. But Cathrine was with me. We went to this hospital for treatment. And remember the dog therapy?
Sure do.
Well, they had this dog therapy ministry or whatever you want to call it. And the person just assumed that I would like the dog to come over by me, while I was actually getting a back rub, if you recall. They had massages. They had a massage chair.
We were waiting for the back rub.
Well,
massage.
I was in the chair. We were in the waiting area waiting for the doctor or whatever, but I was in like this chair that you would like lean over, and I was getting my shoulders rubbed. And this other person came along with the therapy dog. And I really didn't want to pet the therapy dog. But
you were enjoying your massage.
Yeah. And I don't know.
Yeah.
They just assumed that it would bring me joy.
Well, because most people do like that. We're really in the minority.
Yes.
And I don't know what it is. You know, the dog kisses and the companionship and all of that. I just don't long for it.
Yeah. And we talked about this too a little bit ago in our private conversation about how it could be for this season in life.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
It's possible.
And that very well could be for me. I was brought up with we had a couple dogs when I was being raised as a child, and it was fine. It wasn't like a dog bit me or anything like that. But I didn't bond with either one of the dogs that we had. One was like I was too little and it died when I was pretty young, and the other one was my brother's dog and I didn't really like it. Everybody loved the dog, but I was like, oh. It was okay.
It's stealing the attention that I want.
Well, it pooped in my room, Catherine. My room was very particular.
Yeah.
And it went in there and it just was like, I'll show you. Whatever. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have a bonding experience there. Then when I started having kids, I was raising humans. I was trying to keep humans alive. And then the thought of having another living thing that depended on me was a stressful thought.
That's how I felt too.
Yeah.
But we're outnumbered again in that whole thing.
I know.
Yeah. It's the dog hair. It's the
licking.
The licking and the saliva and all those things. I don't know.
And the sniffing. The sniffing. And where they go to sniff.
Yeah,
come on now. Mm-hmm. Okay. Anyway, we're going down another trail.
Yeah, we are.
So our listeners, you guys are hearing us talk about our own experiences, but now let's talk about the pros and cons.
All right.
Because if somebody is trying to figure out whether or not they should get a pet, that's what I want them to leave with from this episode is, okay, what are the steps? What do I do if I'm thinking about getting a pet? What are the pros? What are the cons? What you got?
Well, we'll start with the pros.
All right.
Because the bond between people and pets it's really strong
it's real.
For most people, and it is real. And it could bring happiness. It can increase fitness and lower stress. And it's a fact, study after study, it's been proven that one can have decreased blood pressure, decreased cholesterol levels, decreased triglyceride levels, decreased feelings of loneliness, increased opportunities for exercise or outdoor activities, which goes to say the whole fitness
go for a
thing.
walk, yeah.
Increased opportunities for socialization. And it's funny, I'll have to say on a different website, it said something about a date magnet. It could be a date magnet for you.
I've heard that. I've heard that on dating websites that if you put a picture of yourself with your pet, you're way more likely to get clicked on or swiped on or whatever they call it.
Yeah. Well, not to mention the fact if you're out and about and, it definitely is a magnet for people. They're like, oh, what kind of dog, or what's the dog's name?
And people make a lot of assumptions out in the public in general. I think I told you this. Just a few months ago, I was walking in our little town here. There was a car show going on, and my husband and I were walking up and down. It was really hot, super hot. So we're looking at the cars, and I've got a big bottle of water with me. And this woman and man are there with their dog, and the dog's hairy and panting like crazy. And I'm looking at the dog, and I'm like, oh my gosh, the dog looks like it's super hot, and it's panting, so it's probably thirsty, right? Even though I don't, whatever, no dogs. But I can figure that out. And so I said to the woman, would you like some water for your dog? And she goes, oh my gosh, yes, thank you. So she pulls out this like retractable bowl.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we have that.
Okay, she sets it up, and I give the dog my water. Well, then there's somebody behind me going, oh, that's so cute, like that. And then one of the people, I can't recall now if it was the owner of the dog or the woman behind me, said, oh, you must be a dog lover. And I said, well, actually, no. But if I see someone that's thirsty and I have water, I could put that puzzle together, and I'm going to offer them a drink, And then the woman behind me gave the dog some of her water.
Oh.
And I was like, I gave him the water.
Yeah. I sacrificed.
If I would have known you were going to give the water, I would have just drank my water.
Right.
I'm not doing this for some prize, I just see a thirsty dog.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Uh-huh. Very good.
All right.
Very
So,
interesting.
yes, they're like a people magnet out there.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so all of that I got from the CDC website, which we'll put the link in.
Okay.
And now this website is the WebMD.
WebMD has stuff about, like the health benefits
Mm-hmm.
of having a dog.
Right.
I got you.
And under this section for dogs for the aged, because earlier in our conversation that we had prior to this, we were talking about your in-laws, right? And
right.
that in their elderly age, you could say,
Right.
they finally decided to get a pet.
Yeah,
after-
my father-in-law just turned 80,
Mhm.
and he, for the whole time I've known him, 32 years,
Mhm.
never, he was like, dogs don't belong in the house.
Mhm.
He had a dog outside on his property that had like a dog house, that he could come in and stuff, but it was not allowed in the house. And he was adamant about that. But now he and my mother-in-law, they just got a puppy.
Cute puppy.
Adorable puppy. It's
Yeah.
called a German Beaver or something like that.
Yes, pure.
Beaver. It's like
Yes.
it's not like it looks weird. It's got a W in there,
Yeah,
but
because it's German.
Yeah. Anyway, it's this cute little fluffy dog, little lap dog,
Mm-hmm.
and he really got it for my mother-in-law, Claudia.
Mm-hmm.
But the
Got
dog
him.
is totally
To him.
attached to my father-in-law. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Funny.
And I think the companionship issue is really strong.
Mm-hmm.
Like he takes the dog out for rides on the golf cart.
Well, and the giggles they get from
Yeah.
the funny things the dog does.
Yeah.
Like when, remember we were pulling up in
the
the
camera?
car? Yeah. They have a camera on the dog.
Yeah.
And when the dog hears the garage door go up, the dog goes bonkers, which
Yeah.
is, of course, funnier when you see it on camera.
It is, because the dog doesn't know that you're watching it, which
Exactly.
makes it exciting. And, I can say that maybe I would feel the same way if right now I'm 55, but Lord willing, if I make it to 80 and I'm feeling like, you know what, I would like to have companionship or somebody that depends on me or something to take care of.
Yeah.
I might be in a different season, in a different headspace.
Right. I've thought about that. Like, if anything, God forbid, my kids are gone and I lose Kenny. I don't know, because with a pet, you are confined to home pretty much. I mean, you could go out, but you can't leave for long periods of time. I want to be gone.
Yeah.
I don't want to be, I don't think, in the house. I want to be like my mother-in-law, just out traveling. And
You could get a snake.
They
only eat like once a month.
Don't want that either.
I mean, how could people bond with a snake?
I don't know. Emily wanted a snake when she was younger. I mean, she really wanted
You got to
one.
be able to sleep at night. How are you going to sleep at night with a snake in the
Well,
house?
people do.
I guess.
I don't know.
All right. Are there any
Okay.
other benefits?
Yes. Studies have shown that Alzheimer's patients have fewer anxious outbursts if there is an animal in the home. And also their caregivers also feel less burden when there's a pet for the Alzheimer's patient, particularly if it's a cat, because it generally doesn't need as much care as a dog. But can absolutely
That makes
see
sense.
that. Oh my goodness. Yes.
Yeah.
My mom is extremely attached to her dog. Almost, well, I would say it's unhealthy, but mentally it gives her tremendous comfort and companionship.
And that's
love.
wonderful. And dogs,
Yeah.
dogs throughout the ages have had like real purposes, to help mankind, like
Through the ups and downs in life.
yeah,
I know.
And they do the thing with the retrieving, like if you shoot something and they run off and get it and bring it back, and they do the herding and all that, like getting all the animals together. Mm-hmm. They're pretty amazing.
They really are amazing.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. I just don't have the desire to own one and sleep with one.
Well, you don't have to have animals retrieved and things herded for you at the moment.
No, I know, but I mean the other benefits. Too.
Oh,
You
right.
know, I do see the
The social
bond.
benefits.
Yeah. And then it goes on to talk about mind and soul. Pet owners with AIDS are far less likely to suffer from depression than those without pets. So there's quite a bit on this website too, but they kind of reflect what the other website said as well.
Okay.
So those are just some of the benefits. There's allergy benefits as well. So the earlier you introduce an animal to a newborn baby, then the less likely they'll have that they will have allergies when they get older.
Huh. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's all very good.
Yeah.
All right. What about the challenges? What about the cons?
Well, as we know, it's a huge responsibility.
Yeah.
And there are accidents. We have a friend that her dog ate money, their cash. It was like $800 cash.
Wow. So did they have to fish it out?
I see that as a problem.
Yeah. You think? Yeah. So did they have to fish it out?
I don't remember the end story. Get it?
For $800, I'd be fishing it out.
Me too. Especially since there's cotton in money, which means it might not shred. I don't know. Doesn't shred in the laundry. Yeah. And then sometimes they carry diseases even when they look healthy.
Yeah.
So those are some disadvantages. Also, if you have a big old dog and you're feeble, or even if the dog isn't big, but in the way, and it can trip you up if you're quite weak, and you have like sea legs, or you're just not.
That's a very common injury. Is the dog knocked you down, or you got tangled up in the leash. I mean, you could break stuff like bones.
Right. Not to mention, if you really can't afford to have the animal, and you go ahead and get one, or you may already have the pet when you've lost your source of income.
Yeah.
That's definitely a disadvantage. It's a disadvantage too if you have an animal that has separation anxiety.
Yeah.
You can't go anywhere.
You know, these are the things that when we notated earlier, don't make an emotional decision to get a pet.
Right.
It's really, if you think about it, it's way better for the pet if you don't make this emotional decision if it's really not a good time for you to have a pet, right? Yeah. Because at the time when we made that mistake, and that was my mistake, I own that, because the only reason why I did it, in fact, I was the one who suggested it.
Same with me.
With our pet was because one of our boys was going through an emotional time, and I gave him a hug, and we're both crying, and I'm like, you want to get a puppy? That'll make it better. Let's go look at puppies.
Yeah.
I would have gotten him an elephant if I thought it was going to make it better.
Right.
Mom, don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. I did it too.
Or if you do it, like if you are like set on getting a dog, don't do it in the immediate, like to try to fix something. Do your research. Get the right breed.
Which we're going to help you with that.
Yeah. So
for sure.
Listen to us. Learn from our mistakes.
Yes.
You're welcome.
We made them. Yeah. Well, I forgot the other thing I was going to say about a disadvantage. Can you think of any besides what we named already?
Okay. So you've definitely got the thing of, it's really things like time and money. You've got to have enough of both to be able to take care of the pet. And then the other thing is, when they're little, like when you bring a little puppy into your house, it's like having a brand new baby. And so you've got to be willing to sacrifice sleep, and you've got to do the training. My son and future daughter-in-law, who adopted a pit bull, they fell in love with this pit bull, and they committed to the dog's training.
Commitment is huge.
They had to, because this dog had some issues from whatever its former life, because this was a rescue. And the dog is great, but it required for my son and future daughter-in-law for them to put out some money for training, excellent training, and they had to commit to it, and they have to remain consistent. So I think that's really important for anybody who is thinking of getting a pet, is to make sure everybody's on board that lives in the house. Like, it really isn't fair to ask somebody to sacrifice, I think it needs to be a unanimous decision.
I believe so as well.
If it's not a unanimous decision, then that means that somebody's kind of
They're going to carry the burden.
Yeah, and they're caving for the sake of the whole, but it's really not going to be a good situation. Not ideal anyway. So wait till everybody's on board.
Exactly right.
Yeah. And then do your research. Breeds of dogs especially are so unique.
That's very true.
You're going to want to know, how big does that dog get? Right?
How long does it live?
Yes. How long does it live? Because what's going to happen? We're all going to die. Every single person.
Right.
And every living thing's going to come to an end. What's going to happen when you die?
Some animals, too, are prone to hip displacement or hip problems.
Yes.
Things like that you might not be ready for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what if your dog requires a big doctor visit or emergency hospital visit? I mean, do you have a couple $1,000s sitting around that you can plunk down for the dog? Because you just need to think all those things through for the sake of the dog. Yeah. You really do.
Yeah. I just remembered one other disadvantage. I had thought, and for a long time, kept this stance on whether or not to get a cat. I didn't want cats because I didn't want us to not be able to have company, people who have allergies to cats.
Yeah.
So I always thought, well, I don't want cats because if we want company and somebody happens to be allergic to the cats, they can't come. But of course, I caved into that as well. That was also our kids.
Yeah.
That
rotten kids.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's about it for disadvantages.
All right. Well, we've gone over the pros. We've gone over the cons. Now, what about tips on picking just the right one?
Yeah. So some things to think about before you go and do what we did.
And this is a website we're going to link, right? In the show notes? Okay.
Right. Ask yourself these questions before getting a pet. How long will this animal live? So we talked about that just a little bit. What does the pet eat? Because we're not just talking about dogs and cats. It could also be a horse is very expensive.
Yeah. So do a budget. How much is it going to cost you to feed and all that?
Well, and be sure that you can get the kind of food that your pet has, like certain snakes. I don't know what they eat, but you got to think about that. Do you want to be handling mice?
No.
How much exercise does the pet need? I suppose if you live in an area where, like in a high-rise apartment, I don't think the pet, easily, you can't just open your back door and let the pet go.
Right.
Or perhaps you might be so busy that you can't give the pet the exercise that the pet deserves. How large will it become?
And that's also indicative of how large other things that come out of the pet will become.
Oh, right? Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
How much will it cost for veterinary care? Do I have enough time to properly care for and clean up after the pet? That's a big one when your kids are talking you into a pet. Yeah. Because guess who cleans up the mess mostly?
Did you know there's a business?
Yes, I do know that.
Okay.
Where they...
And especially in the spring. So we live in the Chicago area. So obviously we have snow. And when dogs are doing their business in the backyard and it's wintertime, it's just sitting there in the snow. But when the snow melts, there it is. Months worth of stuff. Yeah. And there are businesses that'll come around and pick all that up. I'm not in that business.
No, you would. I don't think you would do that if it was the last business on earth.
I'd be hard pressed.
What type of habitat does this pet need to be healthy? What type of exercise does this pet need? Which I think we covered that. Are pets allowed in my house, apartment, or condominium? Are there young children, older people, or people with weak immune systems who will care for or be around the pet? So those are some questions to ask yourself beforehand.
You should always, too, check with your local government, village, city, whatever, because you may need to register the pet. You might need a dog tag.
I think they all need dog tags.
Do they?
Yeah.
And you get them from the village, don't you, where you live or whatever? Or do you get them from the veterinarian?
We got ours from the vet.
Yeah. Well, check with your local government and find out what are the rules. Like, can you have your pet off leash, or is that a no-no?
Yeah. Whether or not it needs to be spayed Or
you require that?
I don't know if it's required.
Well,
See
check
how much we
into
know.
it. Check into it if you're thinking about getting a pet. Don't make an emotional decision because you could regret it. I always say this about pets, puppies, and husbands. It's always better to want one that you don't have than to have one that you don't want.
Yeah.
Right, Kat?
That's right.
Yeah.
You had said that.
A million times. All right. Are you ready for some scripture?
Yep.
Let's give it. Genesis chapter 1, going back to the beginning, verse 28. It says this. This is from the New International Version. God blessed them and said to them, "Be fruitful and increase in number. Fill the earth and subdue it. Rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky and over every living creature that moves on the ground." So
there we go. That's our responsibility.
It is.
Take care of them.
Take care of God's creatures. All right.
Amen.
Amen to that. All right. Well, this has been a great episode. And what are we doing next time, Catherine? Next week?
Birth.
Oh, yay.
So, birth. I'm wondering why we didn't just put babies.
Birth sounds better.
Birth. And perhaps some talk on Call the Midwife, which is a program.
Yeah, what's it on? Is it on Prime or Netflix?
Well, now it's on Netflix.
Okay.
But it was a BBC program.
So it's a series, and it's set in 1800s, 1900s?
1950s.
1950s? Okay.
Late 40s into the 50s.
Okay.
Even early 60s, actually.
And it's about these midwives.
Yes, the midwives and their lives. And, of course, also you're in and out of stories of the people who...
The characters.
So
that'll be interesting.
Really good.
Yeah, tune in. I've not seen that program. I'm going to try to watch an episode or two before we record next week. But I have plenty of experience with birth. So
you do indeed.
Yeah. All right. Well, you've been listening to the Life Happens, Laugh Anyway podcast. I'm still comedian Tracy DeGraff.
I'm still Catherine.
Co-host.
Co-host.
We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.